To highlight what a strange occasion this upcoming Roland Garros is going to be, starting in just a couple of days, I was going to start today's show off with a quote from Mats Wilander, former world #1 and multi-Grand Slam champion, talking about what a challenge this is going to be for Rafa. This is going to be very different. But instead, today, I got something straight from Rafa Nadal. He'll tell you even better than Mats Wilander can. Quote from Novak Djokovic, "I think even though he's the favorite, Rafa, I think there are players here that can win against him at Roland Garros." Response from Rafa to that, quote, "Yeah, 100% true." But then Rafa talks about what we all know about the weather conditions. We talked about it in the last show here. I'm sure if you're a fan of tennis, you've heard pundits, commentators all over during Hamburglers talk about this. Quote from Rafa. Let's hear it straight from him. "It's very cold. Slow conditions. Of course, the preparation has been less than usual. But you know what? I am here to fight, to play with the highest intensity as possible, to practice with the right feelings, and to give me a chance." But this is another wrinkle that you might not have heard about yet. A lot of people forget. Like I admitted in the last show, I totally forgot there's going to be a roof, which could make conditions even heavier when they close the roof. And now, another thing many people might have forgotten about, there's a new ball, a ball change. Just like we had a ball change at the Australian Open recently, a new ball being introduced at the French Open. And guess what? Rafa Nadal says the ball is playing slow. So if we get slow, heavy conditions, and we get the heaviest, slowest ball that Rafa does not like, this is even more trouble than what I was thinking a couple days ago for Rafa. Things are looking... Take a listen to Rafa for yourself talking about this ball.
No, I practiced with the balls in Mallorca before the comeback, and in Mallorca with warm conditions, the ball was very slow. I think not a good ball to play on clay. Honestly, that's my personal feeling. It's not the right ball to play on clay court. But even with these conditions, makes the things tougher, no? But I knew before I arrived here, no? So the organization need to take a look on that for the next couple of years, for the health of the players too, because the ball super heavy becomes dangerous for the elbow and for the shoulders, I think.
Well, when the King of Clay is concerned about the new balls at Roland Garros being dangerous, physically dangerous, causing injury to the players, I think it's safe to say that the Raw fans might be freaking out. Today on Coffee Break Tennis, it is a special day. Indeed, we've got a Grand Slam draw for you. The last Grand Slam draw we will see in terrible 2020. The French Open draw is here. If you haven't filled out a racket bracket yet, feel free to copy any of the picks, any of the sections of my expertly picked, expertly analyzed bracket here. Also, we will talk about the 4 excellent clay court players, Tsitsipas in that bunch in Hamburg. We'll talk about them, but I gotta say right away, are they going to be affected? These guys play tomorrow, and then when the French Open starts the next day, 2 of them will be in the final still in Hamburg, and then I believe they will be going to Paris the next day to start their French Open. Is that a disadvantage for the winner? Should you tank the semifinal? Also, we've got Tsitsipas talking about how it was all mental. I said he probably won't be a factor on clay this year because of the mental aftermath of the meltdown, losing to Borna Coric, blowing all those match points at the U.S. Open. We will talk about what Tsitsipas had to say about that himself in today's show. Also, what else do we got here? Lorenzo Musetti. Maybe you thought he slipped my mind during Rome. We'll talk about the 18-year-old player with the giant one-handed backhand, took down all those big names in Rome. And finally, in the show, before we get out of here, we'll talk about one statistic that Rafa Nadal has. It works for him better at Roland Garros than anywhere else in the world. We'll talk about what that is. All will be revealed on today's exciting, jam-packed draw show of Coffee Break Tennis. Real happy you're here today. Quote from Mats Wilander, "I think the field has a much better chance this year than any year I can remember since Rafa Nadal started winning this thing." Going back to 2005, I believe, is Rafa's first year winning. It's a, quote, huge, huge difference for Rafa. This is a huge challenge for him. He's going to be praying for some kind of an Indian summer. He's going to be praying for unseasonably warm weather in Paris. For Novak, I think it's perfect. Novak nearly beat him here in similar conditions in the 2012 final when it was very rainy. But even the field, I think the hard court players are going to do better here because it's not going to be as slippery. That's another key change when you have damp conditions, you have colder weather. The clay kind of hardens, and now it's a little harder to like hit behind someone, trip somebody up with a sneaky like disguised drop shot, or think about that play Federer does where it looks like he's going to cut like a drop shot or a volley short or something like that, and then he pushes it deep, kind of flat and deep into the corner, and you got the player running up, and then they have to stop and go back, and you see him fall over on clay practically. Well, when the clay hardens like this and gets a little wetter, it kind of feels to your feet, maybe not to the ball, but to your feet, it'll play a little bit more like a hard court. I think the hard court players are going to do better, again, because it's not as slippery when it's a little wetter and colder, and the balls don't spin as much. I think that's going to hurt Rafa, and I think that'll hurt Dominic Thiem as well. I have a quote here I wrote in from Jan Michael Gamble. He's commentating on Tennis Channel, retired tennis player, and he said how he struggled on clay, but not because he preferred hard courts, because his movement was tougher on clay. It was harder for him to deal with the slippery surface of clay. He didn't like it as much. But he said in Hamburg, he always did better there because it felt more like a hard court to his feet and the footing. It's easier to stop and change direction, to make it simple. That's the best thing about a hard court for footwork. Someone like me who pretty much only plays hard court my whole life, anytime I get on clay, especially if it's slippery, it's not like they're talking about here, it's not more firm from being damp conditions. If it's slippery, I tend to slip and fall when I play on clay because I'm just not used to the ground moving underneath your feet when you plant and try to stop or start, get going, change direction, that kind of stuff. Quote, Wielander believes Dominic Thiem will be very dangerous at this year's tournament. There's some experts, pundits, whatever, people out there who are saying that this will hurt Thiem like it'll hurt Nadal. Other people think Thiem will have no problem slugging it out in slow conditions. I think someone like Rublev might actually do better in these conditions than Dominic Thiem, potentially. Like, we might see Rublev actually have a really good French Open. He doesn't rely on the spin as much. His big forehand is more about stepping in, and yeah, it's a semi-Western grip. It's a little safer, but he really likes it. His swing path is so through the ball. He flattens it out. He takes it early. He's very much like Davydenko. Wielander also believes Dominic Thiem will be very dangerous at this year's tournament, despite the less than stellar manner in which he won the U.S. Open final. Quote, if he can forget the final of the U.S. Open, just take the win and tell himself, I don't know what happened that day, but I played great for 6 matches, fought hard in the 7th, managed to bring home the trophy. This is perfect conditions for Thiem. He can hit through a heavy clay court. I think he's going to be extremely dangerous. I think Wielander's right. Thiem can hit through a very heavy clay court, but someone like Rublev, maybe that'd be a tough matchup for Thiem because you get a lot of free stuff from the high bouncing ball when you add that much whip on your forehand like Rafa and Dominic Thiem do. You just get so many free points. It's like how at Wimbledon last year, Federer was saying if he hit it hard in the corners with his serve, didn't get the ace as frequently. Even going in the corners, the court felt slow, and you took that away from Roger Federer. Yeah, he made the final, but maybe that could have made a difference in that match against Djokovic. You take the free points away from him there, that hurts. You take the free points away from the big kicking forehand spin from Rafa Nadal, where a Schwarty D can't hit it because it's just a little too awkward. He can't hit a good enough ball to get it past Rafa if he goes to the net or something like that. Think of all the little situations like that that'll play out throughout the course of an entire best-of-5 set match. How many times do you get a free point that can really change the outcome of the match? Rafa's not going to have those. Put the draw on the screen. Let's start off with the Novak Djokovic quarter. Gad, I'm coming through Michael Emer, so feel free to copy that pick on your racket bracket. Then I think he's going to get Hugo Dellien, maybe Ricardus Berankis. No problems either way. Dellien's a little better on clay. I got Djokovic going to the 3rd round, where I think Cam Norrie's got a lucky loser up first. Hurkacz has got Tennis Sandgren. I'll take Hurkacz to come through all of that. I could see maybe Sandgren finding a way to be there in the 3rd round. No problems for Djokovic, Hurkacz, any of these people. Unless Hurkacz just plays the match of his life, you could see maybe some trouble for Djokovic there, but looks pretty easy. Things potentially get tricky in this 4th round of 16 for Novak Djokovic if he runs into Christian Garin. Garin, he's going to have to play Kohlschreiber first, and if he does win against Tsitsipas tomorrow and then has to play in the final, win or lose, and then come play against Kohlschreiber day 1 at the French Open, again, a different ball, different court. The conditions will probably be pretty similar. It's going to be slow like this, but it's still different. I'm very curious to see how it affects these guys, especially the finalists going next day to play at the French Open. If Garin gets through Kohlschreiber is a veteran. He's good on every surface. That is a challenge, but he's towards the end of his career for sure. He could get Hugo Humbert, who maybe losing early is a blessing in disguise for Hugo Humbert. He lost to Casper Ruud today, and it was a good match until Ruud really ran away with it in third set, and Humbert looked like he was worn out. I like Garin to come through. I like Humbert to come through. That's a tough match to pick, Christian Garin or Humbert, but I'll go with Garin because he looks tougher and can go longer to me, especially in best of 5 and slow conditions, and he's hitting his forehand extremely well. I like Garin to come through all the way and have one of his best results past Khachanov. This is his time to do it. You know he's going to be very hungry, but this could easily all go wrong here. This could be blown up. This could be Humbert Khachanov. This maybe could be Kohlschreiber, but I'm going to go with Garin here. I think it's the safest bet. Djokovic definitely comes through there. Below that, I got Jan Struff coming through to face Djokovic in the quarterfinals. This is a little bit tough to pick because Berrettini, he could easily slug his way through. I like Struff and Berrettini because they're going to be able to hit through this court no matter how slow it's playing. I got Busta coming up to Bautista Agut and then going down. After watching Roberto Bautista Agut, I thought maybe I would change the section a little bit, but maybe a blessing that he loses today and gets the reset. It's going to be tough for him to come through Berrettini or Struff. Maybe not even get through Busta if we do get that match. I have Struff losing to Djokovic. Let's move down. Medvedev has never won at the French Open before. How about that stat? Never won. Always loses in the first round. He's got Marti Fucsovics first. I think that's good for him. Fucsovics is also not going to like the super slow court. I think Medvedev will finally get his win. Ramos Vinolas will be tough, but if he can get through 1, I like him to get through 3. Basilashvili has really been on the way down. Maybe he doesn't even make it here, but I think he can get here because the guy needs a win. I don't think he beats Medvedev. I don't think Medvedev gets by Rublev. I had Dusan Lajovic here because he's been so good on clay, but that's crazy to put Dusan past Mr. Rublev. So I got Rublev getting through. Rublev was so impressive today, especially in that first set. He just blew Bautista Agut away. The second set was rough at times. It did appear that he lost feel on his forehand. I mean, there was like 5 breaks in a row. I lost track. It felt like he was going to lose that set, but then at the very end, he pulled it all together, was hitting amazing forehands again. He had some incredible gets. He's moving very well on the clay, very comfortable sliding around on the clay, and he likes the slower clay. He was in the final of Hamburg last year. I believe he beat Dominic Thiem that same tournament last year in Hamburg on the slower clay, so you got to put Rublev far. As you can see, I crossed out Dusan Lajovic. I got Rublev going to the quarterfinals. I'm having a hard time picking this, so when you copy my bracket, if you're copying my bracket, this will be a tough one to pick. I like Tsitsipas, even though Jaume Munar is good on clay. Again, that's a tough first round. If Tsitsipas wins tomorrow, maybe he should lose the green on purpose. If he plays in the final, and the next day he's here at a new place, new balls, and then he's got a guy who likes to play on clay up first. That's tough, but Tsitsipas is looking really good right now. I'm surprised how quickly he's turned it around. You got to pick him to come through. Even Krajinovic. Shapo Dimitrov is extremely tough for me to pick here. We just saw a tough match with them in Rome. I like Shapo. I want to pick Shapo. I can't really tell you how to do it there. That's a tough one. I like Shapo if he is feeling it, if he's going for his shots, believing if he's not screaming and crying to his mother in the player box. And I like Steph to get there. I have question marks all over here, as you can see. That's a tough one to pick. Obviously, I went Steph Tsitsipas because I believe that I want to stick with my original belief that this is the guy who is maybe the future of the sport. He has the potential to be the very best. I think even better than Zverev. Some people, a lot of people probably disagree with me on that, but Steph has got the super high talent level. I like him to come through and lose to Djokovic because this is Djokovic's French Open this year, unfortunately, for the Federer and Nadal fans out there. Let's look at the bottom half of the draw. Things are very tricky for Dominic Thiem, and this is the section we're going to look at. Bublik gets Monfils first. Bublik's been playing well. Monfils has been playing terrible. I'll stick with Mr. Bublik. This is a big opportunity for Taylor Fritz to have some results on clay. He's got this qualifier I haven't heard of named Mashak first. I think Fritz will take advantage of that. Maybe even get through Radu Albat. I'd like Bublik to beat Fritz because I think Fritz will be uncomfortable here on clay, and Bublik will be tricky and weird, awkward to play like he usually is. I got Borna Coric coming through, beating Shardy, getting to Diego Schwartzman. I like Diego to come through this section. He would be a potential quarterfinal for Dominic Thiem, but could Dominic Thiem really get through here? This is, I know Dominic Thiem said after winning the U.S. Open that basically the pressure's off his shoulders. He's a Grand Slam champion. Now when he's in a big situation, a tough situation at the French Open perhaps, that he'll be better equipped to handle it now. He'll have a newfound confidence in himself. I like that he said that. I believe it, but he's got the toughest draw of anyone here by far. It's not looking good for someone to win 2 in a row. Dominic Thiem plays Marin Cilic, Grand Slam champ. 2 Grand Slam champions face off. 2 U.S. Open champions face off in the first round there. Then Jack Sock actually came through qualifications, so more good news for Sock. He had, for him, a good run at the U.S. Open, and now he is through to play at the French Open. Tough match to pick when guys know each other well or friendly from the same country like that. It's always kind of tricky to pick, but I'll go with Opelka coming through. Super slow condition, big serve's going to be nice. You know, you would. It's always confusing to talk about how conditions and the way guys play are going to change. You know, we saw that Isner almost beat Rafa. I can't even remember what year that was, but 8-9 years ago, something like that. Isner almost beat Rafa because when the ball kicks up higher and the conditions are different. Maybe it's not so good for Isner now because the ball is going to be lower. But when a ball sits up, it's easier. It's more in the strike zone for Isner. And a good thing is, if you got a serve like Riley Opelka or John Isner, the slow conditions mean you can still hit an ace. And the guys who could ace you at Wimbledon at a faster court, super slow clay, they can't ace you anymore, right? Especially if you get long arms like John Isner. You're not going to get aced, but you're still going to ace anybody because when you have a serve that big, it doesn't matter how slow the courts are. So Thiem will have possibly Riley Opelka second. Not easy. I'm not as worried about that. I think he gets through. Then he's got Casper Ruud. Casper Ruud, let's see. He's got Yuichi Sugita from Japan first, and then maybe he could play Tommy Paul. Tommy Paul's good on clay. Casper Ruud is great on clay, especially recently, so I'll take Casper Ruud. That's a tough match. I don't think he's ready to beat Dominic Thiem. I wouldn't be shocked. I think he can make Dominic Thiem's life difficult and give him a tough match. Then this round of 16, I go Dominic Koepfer because he's been hot recently, and he's a lefty, so that's always can make things trickier. But this is a really tough little section here to pick. Copy my bracket at your own risk here. First off, we got this Andy Murray, Stan Wawrinka. It's amazing that this match is going to happen. This is a rematch from 2017 semifinals. The last time Andy Murray was here, and now it's his first time back since the hip operation, everything Andy Murray has gone through. Remember, this is like the match that ended Andy Murray. I mean, Andy Murray's been going around saying it recently, but I've been talking about this the last few years because to me, what was really interesting about this match in 2017, the semifinal, is it was kind of the end of Murray and Stan. Remember, Stan the Man started having all these issues with his knees after that. We saw him a lot more than we saw Andy Murray, but still, after that match, both of their careers really changed in major ways. Stan has had a big win since beating Djokovic at the U.S. Open, although it was Djokovic's shoulder hurting last year. And, Andy showed us that he can still win with whatever condition his hip is in now. He's definitely slower, but he still can compete. He's still got great hands. He's still a high tennis IQ. That's a tough match to pick. It's amazing that that's the first round match. It's must-see TV. This is going to be a very interesting French Open. So perfect. It's perfect for me that we're going to start off this way. I don't like either of them I think it's going to be a brutal match, and whoever comes through loses the Koepfer. Maybe that's crazy to say that, but if Stan comes out and is playing really well and is not struggling like when he lost to Musetti in Rome, he played really bad there. He lost to this teenager Musetti, guy's first tour match, his first ATP match ever. And by the way, the guy is still, take a look at this. I think it's safe to show ATP highlights from the Challenger Tour. I hope it's safe. But the guy has a huge backhand. When you got a slow surface, you got time if you got big shots to hit him. And if you get plenty of looks at him and you're just swinging away and everything's landing in, you can beat anyone on the given day. That's kind of how it goes in tennis, unless you're playing a big three type player. Musetti goes on to a challenger and keeps winning. Taking out the top seed in TFO, taking out Andreas Seppi. I didn't check to see what he did today. If I had to guess, I'd probably say he won. What a shame he's not in this French Open draw. So Wawrinka lost to a guy who had nothing to lose, literally a teenager, first time playing, was swinging away, crushing the ball, big forehands, big single-handed backhands. We'll see. If Wawrinka could come through Murray in 3 sets or something like that, then all of a sudden I'll say, okay, he's going to beat Koepfer. I'll change my mind. As of right now, I think it's an ugly slugfest. Or I think it'll be a good match, but it's going to be ugly, the recovery and coming back to play Koepfer. Koepfer comes through. I got Felix Auger coming through here. You got a lot of you got 3 wild cards right here. He'll have to play Yoshihito Nishioka first. But with all these wild cards and unknown names, you like FAA to come through. I don't trust FAA yet after some of the stuff I saw at the U.S. Open. I think he can get very sloppy at times. Koepfer comes through there. Dominic Thiem, Koepfer could be tough, but he should get through there. He'll have Diego Schwartzman. We know that could be tough. I picked Dominic Thiem to get through to this semifinal, where it very well could be a rematch of last year's final, Thiem and Rafa. I like it, but it is a tough section, as everyone in the world has been saying who knows anything about tennis. It's a tough draw from start to finish, but I'm going to go with the U.S. Open champion to come through there. And as you can see, well, we'll talk about that after we go through the bottom section of the draw. So this is Sasha Zverev. This is Rafa Nadal. These are the big names in this bottom section. It's really not too bad for Nadal. I mean, it gets bad, but for Rafa, you got Mackie McDonald, you got Igor Gerasimov, you got some qualifier in these first couple of round potential matchups. Nishikori, I've seen Nishikori a little bit. I think he lost to Musetti as well. Yeah, he did. I remember watching that match. Nishikori's not going to do anything to trouble Nadal no matter what the conditions are because he's coming back. John Isner, possibly, but one of the reasons why that match was so good, yes, the serve is still effective on a slower condition, but the ball kicks up and is in the strike zone for Isner. Now it's going to be a little lower. Maybe that takes it away from Isner a little bit, the advantage there. He would have to possibly go through Fabio Fognini, who had an interesting match. It looked like he was throwing away the match against Casper Ruud the other day, Fognini, but then he played really well stretches. I think Casper Ruud won like 15 points in a row at one stretch where Fognini basically stopped trying. It's pretty incredible. I mean, we've seen Fognini do that before. It's not too incredible, I guess. I like Jannik Sinner to come through here. He's got a good draw. I mean, David Goffin up first. That's not a good draw, but Jannik Sinner, he looks good on clay. He looks good everywhere. I'm going to go with Jannik Sinner here. He's done either that or he's going to take a 2-sets-to-love lead and lose again when his legs don't work properly, whatever's going on with that. This Correa guy's been good on clay. I don't trust Benoit Paire, who knows if he's even going to play. They said that, I read that he tested positive again, even though he tested positive before. Whatever's going on with him, I don't know. We'll see in the COVID world if he makes it through. Either way, it doesn't matter if he makes it through. He's not going to beat these guys. I like Sinner. It's an opportunity to get through here. This is Zverev section. Do we get Zverev and Sinner? First up, Denis Novak from Austria. Zverev should come through there, no problem. Pierre-Hugues Herbert, no problem, unless Zverev chokes away and hits 30 double faults or something like that. I'll take Del Bonis over Juan Ignacio Londero, just because it's slower and he can hit the serve bigger. Also, we've got Cecchinato as a qualifier for the Demon first up, so the Demon will lose first round to Cecchinato, who is pretty good on the clay, if you can remember that guy. I'll take Del Bonis, though, because it's slower conditions to still come through. Zverev gets him, no problem. Jannik Sinner, Sasha Zverev, round of 16. I really hope we get it. Zverev, Nadal. Do you think Zverev is ready to beat the King of Clay? It could happen if we get that quarterfinal. Sasha Zverev, Rafa Nadal. And, of course, we got Team Nadal. Because of the slow conditions, you could argue that Zverev actually might be able to serve Nadal off the court. Nadal have a hard time getting the ball past. We saw how good a defense Zverev can play at the U.S. Open. He's so long. Might work out for him. But the big question, of course, is Dominic Thiem and Rafa Nadal. That's going to be a tough match to pick. And Djokovic is the favorite now for one key reason. I mean, one, he's been the best player this year, but the main thing is just like last year. Remember, Dominic Thiem and Djokovic, they play second after Nadal beats Federer in like pretty weird conditions. There was a lot of wind. It was like a tornado. And then they had to actually postpone the match. Djokovic didn't get to finish with Thiem, and they had to play the next day. And that was such a disadvantage to either whoever won that you knew Rafa was probably gonna come out on top no matter what happened, because that was it was tough to have to play the other best player around, the other biggest threat to win the title besides Rafa, to do the 2 days and all that. Now it's flipped around. Rafa will have to play Dominic Thiem most likely, and then Djokovic. That's how it looks in my draw, at least. I don't think Rafa can do it. I think Rafa does not tie Roger Federer. I think it's advantage Djokovic, whether it's Rafa or Dominic Thiem who comes through that semifinal. Advantage Novak Djokovic. He will be your Roland Garros champion in 2020, the terrible year of 2020. All right, let's talk Dominic Thiem. Talk about the one Rafa Nadal stat, and then we shall get out of here. Did I say Dominic Thiem? I meant Steph Tsitsipas. This is from the Kustmeister, Damian Kust, over at lastwordonsports.com. Steph Tsitsipas overcomes a tough challenge in Hamburglers. Tsitsipas addressed his apparent struggle to succeed at Grand Slam events. Quote, "I'm just trying to get this out of my head that a Grand Slam week is a different week. It's not a different week. I think I should approach it the same way I approach a ATP 250 event. Of course it is going to be longer in terms of sets and in terms of physicality, but my mindset should be, the same way I've been doing things in the smaller tournaments. The Greek feels confident that improvement in his Grand Slam results will come and has a clear plan to approach the 2020 French Open. Enjoy my tennis, play free, and just be happy on the court." How simple is that? And I'm happy for Tsitsipas that it appears he's overcome the mental struggles of late. His devastating U.S. Open, a really bad start, losing to Yannick Sinner in the first round at Rome. Remember, we talked about in the last show, he had like 58 unforced errors. But it looks like he's gotten past it. It looks like Tsitsipas has moved beyond the mental stumble, and now I think the guy. You don't want to call him a dark horse. We all have been watching Tsitsipas for a while, thinking he could do something big. But let me just take a look at his section of the draw one more time. Who here is going to beat Mr. Tsitsipas, Mr. Sissy Pants? It's not Medvedev, which is the biggest seed in this section. It's definitely not going to be Krajinovic. If Tsitsipas is all the way back, even if Shapo's playing great, do you think he'd get him here? I would like Tsitsipas in a long match. Same with Dimitrov. Rublev, I could see him beating Dusan Lajovic. Tsitsipas, the way he handled him today. Djokovic is the only one. But with these conditions, Tsitsipas, I was reminded, I think of Dusan Lajovic as, kind of similar to Tsitsipas. He's a big guy with a one-handed backhand who can hit the ball pretty big, strong guy. They go up for the handshake, and then you remember something. Oh, yeah, Tsitsipas is like 4 inches taller than him. Tsitsipas is bigger than Djokovic. Tsitsipas is a big dude. He's I think he's 6'4". Zverev, Medvedev, guys like that are 6'6". Tsitsipas, to me, he's in a sweet spot. His movement's always going to be a little better, but he's still it's the best of both worlds. He can move more like a big three height. They're all around 6'1", 6'2", but he can hit big serves and have that height advantage, kind of like the big servers at 6'6", not quite Isner and guys like that. But you see my point. It's a good place to be if you're Steph Tsitsipas. It was one of the reasons why I always thought he should be the next number one. He should be the next guy to dominate tennis. Plus, he's got the great game at net. Always useful on clay, useful everywhere when you can finish at net. Get your opponent slipping and sliding on that clay and go up there, finish them. All of these things, they make you think he could beat Djokovic here, but I just don't think it's the right year yet. And of course, Novak Djokovic, he only gets stronger as people root against him and feel happy that he got defaulted from the U.S. Open. You got to know Djokovic hungry for it. Okay, last couple things here. We had something else in here I want to talk about before we get out of here. I'm so excited for this French Open. This is going to be nonstop fun. And, it's not crazy to say Djokovic could lose to Tsitsipas, or to who knows, because with the conditions, the time of year, there's going to be some weird surprises at this French Open. On the French Open and the coronavirus, COVID-19 front of news, we should look at this really quick. NewYorkTimes.com, their tennis writer Christopher Clary, him and Ben Rothenberglers are the main guys who write about tennis at New York Times. He talks about how they reduced the number of fans multiple times now that they're going to allow in the French Open. So the health minister, I get his name in here somewhere, Olivier Véran, France's health minister, he keeps meddling in the plan for the French Open. Is the guy going to cancel the French Open right before it's supposed to start? I doubt it. But they said, what did they say first? Let's see. From Christopher Clary's article here, it says, though the draw went ahead as planned in Paris on Thursday, French Open organizers are still facing big questions about this year's event. The initial plan after the postponement was to host as many as 20,000 spectators per day. You could still social distance that number. But a resurgence in coronavirus cases in France recently has forced the tournament leadership to significantly reduce the number of people on site. On Wednesday, Olivier Véran, the health minister of France, announced that the large planned events in many parts of France, including Paris, will be limited to no more than 1,000 people beginning Saturday. So if you've been watching Hamburg, it's kind of cool. There's a crowd there. You hear them cheering. It feels like normal tennis again. When you look around, though, looks like a lot of empty seats. It's 2,000 people they're allowing there. We're going to go to a bigger stadium now at the French Open and cut that number in half. So it'll be interesting to see what 1,000 spread out around the stadium with the new roof at Roland Garros sounds like. But a little alarming to me. Mild alarm here, mild red flag. I don't think they'll cancel, but the fact that it doesn't say it here, but I think they cut it down. Oh, actually, it does say it here. The French Open was still planning on hosting 5,000 spectators per day, but Guy Forget, the French Open tournament director, said the tournament was awaiting clarity from French Open authorities on how to proceed. So we'll see what the authorities in France do next, but not a good sign that they're changing things so close. Hopefully it'll stop there and it'll be 1,000 fans, and we will get 2 weeks of tennis at the French Open. And finally, why is Rafa Nadal so hard to beat in Paris? This is from Craig O'Shaughnessy, the stats guru who used to work for Djokovic, and he's over at atptour.com writing articles on statistical things, interesting statistical things you can find. And this, again, different conditions, so maybe these numbers won't hold, but it's interesting to observe. To beat Nadal at Roland Garros, plan to break serve often. Well, Diego Schwartzman did in Rome, and it worked pretty well for him. But you got to do it, as Diego Schwartzman did on clay, because on clay, Rafa Nadal saves more break points than anywhere else he plays, except for one weird statistical anomaly here. Shanghai, which I believe he's never won before, he actually does better there. In 24 matches in Shanghai, Nadal has saved 71.3% of all break points faced. In Roland Garros, he's 1% less at 70.3. Then it's Australian Open at 68.9. Wimbledon at 68.7, and it goes down and down and down. He's his worst at the U.S. Open, which he's won multiple times, at 63.6 over the span of 74 matches. But in 95 matches, that's a lot. All these numbers here doesn't come close to 95 out of all these tournaments. U.S. Open 75 and Australian Open 79. That's as close as you get. But 95 matches, that's what happens when you keep winning. You get to play more. Rafa's done a lot of winning at the French Open, and in 95 matches, he saves over 70% of breakpoint opportunities. That is quite a stat. Question is, hit the music. Will Rafa Nadal be able to save over 70% of breakpoints this year at the Roland Garros? Comment below what you do think. We will be back after play is over. The conclusion of play on Sunday, first day of the 2020 Roland Garros Championship. Do tell me what you think of my picks. What are your picks? Any major disagreements you have with my racket bracket? Tell me soon with a comment. Maybe I'll change it before I submit these picks to the Tennis Channel racket bracket, because I'm going for #1 this year. See ya!